I'd like to start this press conference, this press briefing with the some remarks pertaining to ongoing situation with immigration policy as far as it is concerns the vessels that enter our country. I believe that the press coverage that is given to this issue is a bit unfortunate, especially because those who are making the comments are warning against the effect that the policy would have on the visitors on the boats that come to our shores, yet they are the ones who are making this known throughout the region, throughout the world, and not with the necessary accuracy. So I think I would need to elucidate a bit and control. It's been spoken of a new policy. There's no new policy. The situation with vessels entering and the crews of vessels has been an issue that for a very long time has been the topic of conversation and how it should be regulated. It was, in some cases, basically a free-for-all as to who comes in via our ports and how long they stay. It is also alleged that no discussions were held with the stakeholders. This also is not totally accurate, because I personally, along with members of the border control, have sat with agents, representatives of the SHTA, representatives of the marine trade, who are also agents, and have discussed this issue. There has been a lot of areas with the existing policy, how it was being executed and how it was being interpreted, that caused a lot of confusion and misunderstandings. At that meeting, all parties agree, and I still stand behind of that, that you cannot go and change the rules, especially in a drastic manner in the middle of the process. We are in the middle of our season. We have the Heineken Regatta that is coming in. It's unheard of that we would go then and change the rules in the middle of that process. Parties agreed that we would document the rules as they are, okay, making it clear how it should be interpreted for the remaining of the season. And during the off-season, all parties would sit and we would review the whole matter and come up with the definite policy, which would give all of the agents time during the off-season to inform their clients, which would be whether it is the mega yachts, whether it is the cruise ships or any other commercial vessel that enter our port. So they would have enough time to do so and prepare for that for the coming season. But in the meantime, during this season, we would not go and change the rules. We have to realize that while our economy is very important, and I don't think there is one minister in this cabinet that would intentionally do something that would hurt the economy, we also have to understand that equally, if not more important, is our border control, our safety for the people who reside on this island and who come and visit us on the island. The realities that are taking place in the world that we see on CNN, we should stop thinking that it can't happen to us. We should get real. We should wake up. It's very important for law enforcement to know who comes in via our ports and what they bring in via our port. And that is part of the law enforcement job, and that is also part of my responsibility. And you have to balance that with your economy. You cannot ignore the one for the other. The documented rules, there are different players who are involved in this process. And reading the press reports and trying to get exactly the information, what the problem really is, it's still sort of unclear to me. For that reason, also this afternoon, the head of the border control, I think all this afternoon or tomorrow morning, again will be meeting with some of the stakeholders to try to get to the bottom of what is the issue here. Statements are being made that the Heineken regatta is being affected. This is not true. And I personally have spoken to the director of the Heineken regatta. I requested a list of all the boats registered to be in a Heineken regatta and the crew members, because it is about the crew members. They themselves cannot give me a list of the crew members because it is not known to them. Why I ask for this is because we would have done anything. If we have the names before, I would even give the names to the immigration to facilitate that the participants in the Heineken regatta are not affected by no misinterpretation or anything like that. We have a listing of the boats. We have good communication. I requested the folks of the regatta at any time contact me if there's any problem. So as far as I know, there is no problem with the Heineken regatta. You have a situation where agents represent the vessels that are here and their crew. And as such, the agents have to guarantee the stay of the crew while they are on the island. Now, for the situation to be clear, this is something that affects folks who come from a country where a visa is required to enter St. Martin and who do not have that visa. That should be clear. So it's a situation where if you have a visa to enter St. Martin, you have no problem. So this, what we are talking about, is already accommodating the folks in question by easing our regulations to accommodate the folks without a visa. The same requirements that has been in place are the requirements that are used, are in this document, and but are now documented again so that there could be no misunderstanding. The agents, however, have a role. They have a role to play, and the role is to request the waiver for the crew involved, the crew members involved, and to issue a letter of guarantee that while those crew members are on the island, that they are responsible for them. Apparently, some agents may have a problem with that, but that's what a letter of guarantee is about. You guarantee that while from the day that that person enters the island until they leave, that you are responsible. So if they do not leave when they're supposed to leave, or if they stay and take up employment which they have no permission to do, then the agent is responsible. Also, who is an agent? Every business, every person or entity operating on St. Martin is required to have a license to do so. That is laid down to make it clear, because at a certain moment requests were received and there was a doubt whether these entities are legally allowed to operate on the island or not. And next to that is that per passenger, per request for each passenger, a fee of 45 guilders has to be paid, okay? And the agent is the one responsible for paying this fee. If we cannot control who comes in, then we cannot also control what is owed to us. So again, this document is not coming as is being portrayed with drastic new measures. It is documenting the already existing measures and making them very clear, so that all parties know exactly what is expected of them. It was also mentioned about that crew members only get, according to this policy, 90 days to stay, while, for instance, the mega yachts stay longer on the island. They stay maybe 4 months, or in some cases maybe even more. And that, so what we call then the home porting would be affected. That is also not the case. Parties had agreed that this, what we are putting on paper now, documented, is until the end of this season. So if you take 90 days from now, carry you to June. As far as I know, that's off season. So the 90 days covers the season, this present season, so no one can be hampered because of that 90 days. And in the off season, when none of the mega yachts are here, we would then continue the discussion as to see whether we need 90 days or 180 days or what have you not to come with a definite thing. So the 90 days, it is not something that is put into effect, and that is throughout, so that next season the crew would only get 90 days to stay, thus cannot stay longer if the boat is here for longer. That is not the case. I have asked the Immigration Department to go over again the process with those on the field, those immigration officers on the field, to make sure that it is very clear. I do acknowledge that I think yesterday in 1 or 2 cases that there was a misunderstanding by one of the officers, but as far as I know, no one was sent away. It was a case where a person was told that they had 48 hours or could only stay for 48 hours. And that has been corrected, and it has been acknowledged that contact was made with the Immigration Department and it was a mistake. So that is as far as the that issue is concerned. I think I covered that, and I would hope and I welcome the SHTA and the St. Martin Marine Association to hold further discussions, and but realizing that it's not going to continue to be just an open sepulcher where everyone can just come in at their wish. The other issue I want to briefly touch, as was also reported in the media, is that there was an injunction case filed from the Inmates Association against the minister, which was handled yesterday in the courts, and that issue was discussed. Unfortunately, we tried to get a postponement of the injunction because we, as was reported to you, we have already started to take measures, and those measures will lead to improving the situation for the inmates also. But first thing first, we have to make the prison secure. We have to be able to guarantee the safety for the prisoners and for the detainees and the people working there and the community at large. Nevertheless, the attorneys of the inmates decided still to proceed. It was handled. Many of the things that they have on their list was discussed, and we could have shown that these are things that we have already put some things in process. And what the judge basically asked was within a period of 2 weeks to come with a plan or detail the plan with as much as possible, try to give a timeline as to when we would be able to materialize those things. For us, not a big issue, not a major issue, because like I said, we have already started working on most of those things, and we were not waiting on a judge to tell us to do so. However, I still would like to reach out to the attorneys of the inmates that to stay in contact with us so that they too can monitor the progress that we are making. Like I said in previous briefings, it's a concern that all of us have, and all of us have to work together to get it solved and not be fighting each other.
St. Martin's is awesome. The people are great, so friendly, hospitable. The vibe is fantastic. This is just a really, really good time.
This regatta is beautiful, absolutely.
Welcome to Heineken Regatta.
Now we're going to sail. Now we're going to race.
Look at them, they're all ready to roll.
Help him out, help him out, help him out. He's in, he's in, he's in.
Nice boys, go hiking!
It's gonna get wild shortly, man. Hold on.
You want to go and take it, brother? My mom! So we have a party tonight again. I don't know what will be tomorrow, so no sleeping.
Today I would like to clarify or elucidate on some comments that have been made. To update the general public about issues within Division Public Education, I would like to say that after having received the list of grievances last year in 2016 from the various public schools, meetings that were held, etc., with both management and teachers, these grievances were brought forward to the ministry. They range from areas such as discipline, lack of a discipline policy, and serious issues with discipline within the schools, children with learning disabilities, adherence to the school curriculum, lack of parental involvement, day-to-day maintenance of school premises, among others. The departments, the divisions, such as Department of Education, the Department of Youth Affairs, the head of the division, Inspection and Exams, head of DPE, Division Public Education, and Secretary General hosted a meeting whereby the concerns were brought forward and brainstorming and action planning took place in terms of how to facilitate solving some of these grievances as in a short as well as long term. The plans are currently underway, some of them in the beginning phases, others as they are long term still need to begin. Some of the maintenance issues have been dealt with, which could be dealt with promptly. Those have been dealt with. Others have been assessed and are awaiting approval, final approval for financing so that the work can take place. Some of those issues had also made the papers in recent months. In collaboration with other departments and divisions within the ministry, I can say that the SSSD, the Student Support Services Division, has conducted several workshops last year geared at helping teachers deal with the many behavioral issues they face in the classrooms. parenting workshops have also been held, and the ministry has also embarked within this year's plan to really put a huge impetus between the parental platform. This was something that had been established before, which gives parents a bigger voice. Each school is supposed to have its own PTF, Parent Teachers Foundation, used to be association, but now it's foundation. And this gives them also that avenue in terms of bringing the voice and the complaints and the grievances, not just to their school, but having representation on a platform where all schools are represented, so all parents of all schools. Then they can look at areas where they can collaborate, what's working well in one school, suggestions that can work in another school. So in this way, we are promoting parental involvement in schools. So by this, parents, if you're out there listening, see how you can get more involved in your school's progress, not just in pointing out some of the issues, but in also helping to find some solutions. We are looking forward to that platform being reestablished and getting full force. Within Division Public Education itself, I myself have asked the division head to provide a communication plan, as many of the complaints were that they were not receiving responses in a timely manner from the division. As such, the plan has been shared with me. I don't know in how far it has been worked out within the schools. I would expect that they would have some feedback, etc., with the division head, and as such, communication improving at that level is something that we are striving for, both management as well as at the ministry level. Even within the ministry, we've had some complaints about compliance as well. And so these are areas that the same standards that we hold other school boards to, that we also have to hold public education to, for which I am surely responsible. So I definitely am looking for the inspectorate, as well as SSSD and exams, to collaborate even further with Division Public Education in making sure that they are compliant, that the necessary assessment of teachers are done to make sure that the quality of education continues to improve. So it is a continuous process. It is a long and tedious process, and I do understand sometimes not seeing tangible things that you can say, yes, something is happening, would put people to think that nothing is happening. So I would like to allay that fear that nothing is happening. There is quite a lot going on behind the scenes, trainings, lots of meetings, and as I stated before, the Division Public Education, we are looking at completely restructuring that. So no steps can be taken until we find a proper structure, because you cannot hold people completely responsible for things where within the structure itself, it doesn't leave them the room to progress. So as I mentioned before about certain repairs not being made because of the time it takes, also the process to go through the entire system to get the financing approved, this causes a lot of unnecessary delay. So we have to find ways in which to get this division, which actually in, some countries it's a ZBO, in other countries it's other things. So I'm awaiting the final report as to what would be the best structure for St. Martin, seeing the way our laws are put in place. And by this, I hope to have put some of the fears to rest within the teaching corps and within the public that nothing is being done. This topic has never left my priority list, but I do have to rely on advice and a lot of meetings, internal and external, to get the ball rolling. So hopefully soon, after I've gotten this last report pertaining to how we should move forward in restructuring public education, I can then come back to the teachers to be able to divulge on a more detailed basis some of their specific grievances within the school. What I would like to encourage all schools and school management to do is, as I have said in the meetings with you, is to create the culture you would like to see within your school, regardless to what's happening outside. I know that many classrooms are islands within themselves, and schools can also create that silo effect of this is good by me and I want to be the best. And I've also encouraged it across school boards, that we learn from each other, that we share with each other, that school board meetings not only be about the technicalities of what exams and what laws and what need to be changed, but if something is working very well by one school, that it be shared with the others so that we can, as a country, progress. because government is funding all of you at the end of the day. And then the education report shows these huge discrepancies, which I've also recently received and have to be able to dissect properly, analyze properly, to take it also to Parliament to inform the general public, and then everyone will be able to see how we are ranking across the board. And by no means am I satisfied across the board. So long-term and short-term plans are in the offing, and as soon as they are finalized, they will be divulged to the public. Moving forward, I already mentioned some of the workshops, etc., that SSSD, our Student Support Division, is doing, but I'd like to also bring forward something that they are planning for August of 2017, which required, of course, my approval from now. That's how early. It's an international Caribbean Well-Being Conference, and it is all about positive development, seeking to promote positive development and well-being of children, parents, families, schools, and communities. So this is right in line with what we are working with. So I'm very proud to announce that government is a partial sponsor of this conference. Of course, they had to bring in several private sponsors as well, and so I thank them for seeing the importance of this. The CWBC, the Caribbean Well-Being Conference, seeks to promote positive development and well-being, and so it aims to inform and educate on best practices to promote children's well-being by looking at the important role that parents, families, teachers, schools, and communities play in the promotion of well-adjusted, socially and emotionally competent youth. I think it's a very, very big endeavor for the division to take on. It is being organized by the Student Support Services Division. The St. Martin Youth Council is a collaborating partner, as well as the St. John's University of New York, which has helped us in the past in terms of testing our children with their learning disabilities, etc. So we look forward to that conference. It will be from August 6th to 8th, and I encourage the local professionals to make sure to participate with that and hear from our Caribbean neighbors how they are dealing with some of these issues within the Caribbean.